Okay, so the objectives for today's lesson or for this week's lessons are the following. So basically, this PowerPoint or this module discusses the knowledge, skills, and attitude required to recommend and implement solution to a problem. Now, last week, the topic is uh, uh, the first one is utilizing specialized communication skills, wherein I discussed the different communication tactics. And number two is week two lesson is uh, developing individual and team growth. And number three is I forgot the topic, no, but this is in relation to the lesson last week. Okay? By the way, last week lesson is um, planning and organizing work. Okay, so I hope you learned that what are the skills or what are the steps in planning. Okay, once you become an employee or once you join a company, you should be able to know how to plan, organize different tasks or different activities. Now, for this topic, for this lesson, um, you're going to number one, prepare communication or documentation report. Number two is present recommendation to appropriate personnel, and number three is implement the recommended solution. So basically, you're going to know, or at least learn, what are the skills, the attitude or knowledge required for you to be able to recommend, implement solution to a problem. Now, this module features the use of a structured process improvement, which is typically performed by an experienced technician, team leader, and supervisor. So basically, ano yung mga um, skills and attitude na kailangan, okay, para kayo ay makapag-recommend, makapag-provide ng solution given doon sa isang scenario or sa situation or sa isang problem. Okay? So as an IT student, you should be able to determine ano yung mga dapat gawin. Okay? Yan. Okay, prepare communication or documentation. So, yung first topic nitong subject is basically we define what is communication. Okay? Diniscuss ko doon yung ano yung mga communication tactics. Now, why do you need this? Because ginagamit natin, we do communicate every day, be it sa classroom, sa bahay, okay, sa work. Okay? So, kailangan natin makipag-communicate. Okay? Okay, so, sorry. So, we define communication, okay, or communication refers to the interchange of information between two individuals or business organization about their desires, observation, and knowledge, whether in words, actions, or symbols. So, basically, it's the relaying an information from an individual to another individual. Okay? That's basically yung definition natin ng communication. Okay? So, communications can be verbal, non-verbal, or in written forms. Pag sinabi natin verbal, yung ginagawa ko. Okay? Nagsasalita ako. Okay? Pag sinabi natin non-verbal, it can be through facial expression, body language, yan. That's non-verbal communication. And in written form such as reports, um, progress reports, or basta written or handwritten or computerized. Okay, so that's examples of written forms. Now, in this section, okay, ways to communicate the solution to a problem and proper documentation are discussed. So basically, ano yung mga iba't ibang ways para ma-relay natin yung ating suggestions, recommendation, okay, sa isang problem. Okay? So, yan. And ano yung dapat na format ng isang documentation? No? Last week, I discussed kung ano ba yung format or structure ng isang written report. Okay? So, ano ba yung mga parts niya? Okay? So, we have the introduction, we have the table of contents, we have the executive summary, the methods, the discussion, conclusion, acknowledgement, bibliography. So, these are parts of a written report. So, depende sa um, departments or organization or company yung kanilang written report format. Okay? So we have different types of written communication. Number one is, sabi dito, in recommending solutions to a problem, the information should be distributed to everyone In doing so, effective written communication is required, especially sa isang organization. Okay? Kailangan alam or aware ng lahat ng members, alam ng stakeholders. Pag sinabi natin stakeholders, sila yung mga involved, okay? Be it an individual organization sa isang decision. Okay? So dapat aware sila ng recommended solution. So in doing so, effective written communication is required. So sometimes it can be through oral, pwedeng informal lang siya oral, but to make it more formal, no, we uh, relay the recommended solution through a formal communication, and that is a written communication. There are ways to express your ideas. Okay? Diba, nag-share tayo ng ating opinion, ng ating ideas, ng ating haka-haka, no? Through written, verbal, and non-verbal. Now, the following are common types of written communication which you can utilize in a workplace. So, as you go along with your degree and then acquire your degree, as you go along with your studies, acquire your degree, and then nag-work na kayo sa isang company, eto palagi ang may experience nyo, okay, in communicating. No? That's why baga, pag nag-apply kayo ng work, one of the skill requirement is um, uh, okay yung oral or written communication. Kumbaga, one of the requirement is communication skills. It means it can either be written or oral. Okay? So number one is handwritten, types of written communication. Handwritten. Handwritten is a type of communication in a more personal form which had been the basis of communication before. So written letters, postcards are examples of written communication. So um, we rarely use handwritten communication. No? Usually, pag nagsasabi tayo ng report, it must be computerized. No? So handwritten is an example of a written communication. Number two, printed report. So printer report or printed report is a presentation of information that is organized in narrative, graphic, or tabular form. Example nito yung ating mga research, yung ating mga progress report. Yan, that's an example of printed report. Another types of written communication is internal memos. Memos stands for memorandums or memoranda. Okay. Now, these are used for internal office messages. Memos are distributed to all staff working in the same organization and also posted on a notice board. Okay? So, sa school, merong mga information or announcement na pinopost si senior high coordinator or si dean. Yan. That's an example of a memorandum wherein ini-inform niya lahat ng members ng isang organization or ng isang institution or yung staff or yung students. Okay, so memos is an example of a written communication. Electronic email, so I'm sure most of you ay ginagamit yung email. Okay, so it's the exchanging of digital messages between computer users. It is one of the most prevalent and convenient forms of communication nowadays, especially ngayon na tayo ay naka-online. Okay, we communicate through emails, no? Naka-work from home. Okay, usually ginagamit natin yung email as a means of communicating. Okay, so written communication. Number 5 is briefing notes. Now, are prepared before any topic or issue that decision makers need to be informed about. Okay, so sometimes ginagamit to through meetings, no? Or sinishare, nire-relay lang sa staff or sa members ng isang organization. And then we also have the bulletin boards, no? Meron tayo nito sa school. Now, these are intended for posting of notices, announcement, or public messages that is, or example nito ay yung mga memos, announcement of events. So, usually pinopost natin sa bulletin boards. Okay? So, these are the types of written communication, which I'm sure most of you nakakita na nito or nakagawa na ng ganito. Okay? Okay, documentation. So documents provide an evidence to an organization's transaction, and it is important that they are well written, concise, clear, and deliver information in an effective way. So basically, ginagamit to, no, for a proof, no, na ikaw ay nag-submit, ikaw ay gumawa nito, or etong event na to ay nangyari. So that's why sabi nga dito, provide an evidence to an organization's transaction. So may documentation. Okay? So, sabi dito, audit trails can be used for different purposes, such as or that is accounting, telecommunications, information security. Pag sinabi nating audit trails, it is a chronological record or set of records of system activities provides documentary evidence of the sequence of environment and activities. So basically, it's a log, no? Log, parang logbook siya wherein nire-record niya lahat or lahat ng documents, lahat ng activities, events na nangyari ay recorded in chronological order. So pwedeng by dates, pwedeng by time. Okay? So another type of documentation is the naming conventions. Okay? So naming conventions refer to a standard rule of naming records consistently and logically. They are applied to all documents and to electronic folders in order to implement consistency in the form of name and words used. Example nito, pag tayo ay magsasave ng isang Word document, okay, so we usually have, some organizations meron silang format ng kanilang file name. Okay, so para at least hindi ganun ka, tawag dito, kagulo, no? So, sabi nga dito, mas clear, okay, yung pag-deliver ng information. Mas magiging effective kung meron kayong naming conventions sa inyong documentations. So, meron tayo ditong 7 rules, okay, that could serve as a general guideline in naming files appropriately. So, meron tayong rules kung paano tayo maglalagay ng name sa isang file name or sa isang folder ng inyong computer. Number 1 is keep file name short and clear. Okay? So, wag naman yung masyadong mahaba. Okay? So, example, project management report.doc. Ibig sabihin, this is an example of a file name ng isang Word document. Kasi base sa kanyang extension, .doc. So, it's a Word document. So, this is an example. Dapat daw yung file name mo, yung name ng inyong file is short and clear. And number 2, avoid repetition in file names. Bakit? Kasi pag marami pare-pareho yung file names, most probably, hindi mo na malaman kung alin dito yung updated, alin dito yung totoong file name, alin dito yung totoong document na hinahanap nyo, or kailangan nyo i-submit. Okay? And number 3 is leave spaces between words or use underscore. So for example, dito sa rule number 1, kung makakita nyo dito, project space, management space, report.doc. So dapat may space or you can use an underscore. Okay? And rule number 4, use at least 2 digits when including a number in a file name. Kasi sometimes, say for example, report.doc, and then gumawa ulit tayo ng another report1.doc. So, yan. Report draft.doc. May mga ganun. Hanggang sa mayroon na tayong last na file name na report final.doc. So, as much as possible, avoid yung mga ganung situation, no? So, kaya that's why we have the rules, no? Kung paano tayo magbigay ng name sa ating mga files or sa ating mga folders. So, number 4 rule is you can use at least 2 digits pag masyado ng maraming file name. So, example, project management report V for version 01. So, ibig sabihin, version 01 to, .doc. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, ito ay updated version nitong file name na to. Okay? So, pag marami na siyang, kumbaga, palagi mo nung ina-update yung isang document, you can use version, okay, and use 2 digits, 01, kung pang first yan na version, or you can use version 02, okay, kung pangalawa na siyang version or pangalawa ng updating ng file, okay, or ng folder. Okay? And rule number 5, sometimes sa ibang institution, ang ginagamit nilang naming convention sa kanilang file name ay dates. Okay? So, date should be well ordered. Bakit kailangan? Kasi para alam mo kung alin din yung pinaka-updated or aling pag inaalala mo, saan ko, or alin ba dito sa mga reports na to ang ginawa ko nung ganito. So, sometimes you can use the dates, okay? Para mas madali, okay, yung paghanap ng isang file or mas madali mong malaman kung alin ba dito yung pinaka-updated. Okay? So, in using a dates, okay, sa name ng isang file, use the back to front format. So, ano bang ibig sabihin ng back to front? You can use the 4 digits, yung year muna, okay? And then yung month, and then the days. So usually yung month and days natin is we use the 2 digits. Okay, so example nito ay 2016-05-25 report.doc. So, ibig sabihin, etong report na to ay ginawa nung May 25, 2016. So you can use this naming conventions. Some institutions, some companies ginagawa to. Especially pag kailangan yung gumawa ng report every day or sometimes every month. So para mas madali na, okay, etong si ganito ay nag-submit ng ganitong report for this day or for this month. Okay? Okay, rule number 6, sorry, this is rule number 6. Avoid using words such as draft or final at the start of the file names. Okay, so, di ba, mayroon nga ganitong memes mayroong memes, no, na palagang parang file name ng isang document, parang ang dami ng draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, hanggang yan. Final, 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 parang ganun. So, it's a meme, no? So, yan. So, avoid using those, no, or using the draft or final at the start of the file name. It will be difficult to retrieve the records as the file directory will list all files in alphanumeric order. Di ba? Bakit? Sometimes pag marami na siyang, say for example, di ba pag nag-search ng files ang ating computer, we usually, pag nakita natin, lalabas siya in alphanumeric. Ibig sabihin, letter A. Okay? So, kung lahat yan D, lalabas lahat ng D. So, mas matatagalan ka. No? So, yan. So, example nito is, Project Management version 01. So, pwedeng ganito, draft. Para alam mo kaagad na ito yung draft. And then, ito naman another example is, alam mo kaagad na version 2, ito yung final. Kasi malay nyo, marami kayong versions. Alin na dito yung pinaka-final na document. Okay? So rule number 7, the version of a record should be indicated in its file name by the insertion of V. So that's why we have V for version. Okay? If applicable, add draft or final at the end of the file names. So kung pwede, okay, depende sa inyo. Depende naman kasi yan sa taong nagsasave. But then sometimes, para mas madali mong identify which alin dito sa mga documents ang pinaka-final, alin yung draft, alin yung parang updated. Okay, so these are the guidelines or simple rules or basic rules in naming files appropriately. Okay, so yan, documentation. Okay, version control. Now, version control is the management of various revisions of files through the use of document control sheet and version numbering included into each file name. Now, version numbering, example, implementing solution version 3 final.doc, okay? Document control sheet example is shown at the right. Now, saan ba ginagamit yung version control? Now, merong mga legitimate or tawag dito, example ng mga document, legal documents na kumbaga monitor nila, monitor ng isang company kung ilan na ang naipamigay. That's why kinokontrol nila yung documents. Okay? And sometimes, importante siya for monitoring purposes na say for example, etong documents na to kailangan 170 lang ang may bigay. Okay? That's why naglalagay sila ng version control. Or else, baka mahirapan sila for monitoring. That's why merong version control. Okay? So example ng isang document controlled, okay, document control sheet. Okay, so we have here the title, ano yung title ng document, sino nag-prepare, sino nag-approve, kailan yung effectivity niya, anong version. So, yan, okay. Review frequency, kung meron ba, applicable ba to, kailan siya ni-review, kailan yung date, and then sino yung contact person. Okay, so yan, version control. Or, you have here the version number for monitoring purposes to class. Okay, yan. Okay, so another example of documentation control sheet ay yung ito. So, meron kang version, yung date, meron kang summary changes, merong initial, sino yung naglagay, okay? And then, kung yes or no, kung meron bang changes. Sino yung approval? So, yan. Sino nag-approve ng document? Kasi para for monitoring purposes din to. Okay? So, kailan siya pinirmahan at anong version? Okay? So, sinong nag-distribute? Yan. This is an example of a document control sheet. Okay? So, ginagamit to, very applicable to sa ibang company. I think sa government, gumagawa sila nito para alam nila kung nasaan na yung papers mo or nasa na yung documents na sinubmit mo for monitoring purposes. Okay? So that's part of um, communicating, no? The documentation. Ayan. Okay, present recommendation to appropriate personnel. So as a review, oral communication is the process of conveying information and ideas from one individual to another, like explaining, greeting people, coordinate work tasks, giving directions. These are examples of oral communications. Okay? So yung oral communication can be it can either be formal or informal communication. Pwedeng through a meetings. So, mayroon ditong examples. No? So, ang examples ng formal communication are, number one, presentation of reports. Discussion, ito, seminar lectures, conference talk, group meeting. These are examples of formal communication. Formal oral communication. Okay? Example naman ng informal communication are face-to-face, telephone conversation, informal interview or meetings, brainstorming, discussion groups. These are examples of informal communication. Now, in conveying or relaying the recommended solution, okay, you can either use oral communication. So sabi nga dito, this type of communication, the oral communication, is needed in conveying the recommended solution to the concerned staff or personnel. So aside dun sa written, meron ding oral communication. Kasi ibig sabihin, sabi nga dito, example is, baka kailangan mong i-present yung inyong reports, kailangan mong i-present yung system. So that's an example of oral communication. Okay? Okay, receiving and finalization of instructions. So once the recommended solution is communicated to the concerned staff or department, conduct final check with the following steps. Kasi di ba, kaya nga yung topic natin is, sabi nga dito, ang topic natin ay preparing, tawag dito, recommending and implementing solutions to a problem. So paano ba tayong magre-recommend ng solution sa isang problem? Okay? So kailangan nating makipag-communicate. So first is, we need to prepare the communication, and that is through documentation. Once na na-prepare nyo na yung documentation, pwede nyo siyang i-present either through written or oral. Okay? So, yan. Okay? So, paano naman yung pag-receive and pag-finalize ng tawag dito, ng instructions? Okay? So, sabi dito, once the recommended solution is communicated to the concerned staff, kailangan daw meron tayong gagawing final check. Okay? You have to check kung tama ba yung ating nagawa na recommended solution. Okay. So number one is determine constraints. Pag sinabi natin constraints, ano yung mga pwedeng obstacles or challenges? Okay? Doon sa ating recommended solution. Say for example, nagpapagawa ng isang system. Okay? So nag-provide ka ng solution na dapat ganito ang magiging system. So first is bago mo siya ibigay doon sa bago mo siya i-implement, no? Bago mo i-relay yung inyong recommended solution, okay? Kailangan mo munang number one, determine constraints. Pag sinabi natin constraints, these are limitation, challenges, factors, okay, na pwedeng maka-affect doon sa pag-implement ng recommended solution. So, ano mga examples ng constraints? Number one, technical. Yan. Okay? Kaya ba ng currently ng hardware or ng system or ng software? So, yan. So, you also have to consider the political. Sometimes kasi hindi lang naman yung political sa government, no? Sa office, meron ding politics. Okay? Yan. Economic. Kaya ba? Okay, kaya ba itong i-implement na recommended solutions? Nagkanda ka ba ng cost and benefit analysis? So yan. Social, human social, ibig sabihin, acceptable ba to? Pag once na-recommend mo tong solution na to, yung acceptability ba ng users ay pwede or mataas, no? Human resources or time factors could limit the implementation of the solution. So basically, ikaw din mismo bilang nagbibigay ng solution, nagre-recommend ng solution sa isang problem, specifically yan ay isang system, dapat alam mo kaagad, okay, yung technical, political, economic, social, human resources, or time factors na pwedeng maka-affect doon sa pag-implement ng recommended solution mo. Okay? So, yan. Para ikaw din, makapag-isip ka na, okay, since ito yung mga factors na pwedeng maka-affect, ito yung ating recommended suggestions or solution din dun sa mga ganyan, mga factors na to. Number 2, okay, identify appropriateness. Does the solution fit the circumstances? Say for example, kailangan ng isang payroll system. Okay? So nag-suggest ka ng payroll system. Tama ba tong payroll system? Ma-address ba yung problem nitong suggestion mong system? Okay? Or baka naman masyado naman siyang malaki na to the point hindi pa naman ganito kailangan ng ganitong system. So, does the solution fit the circumstances? Okay? So, you have to identify the appropriateness ng inyong recommended solution. Number 3, confirm adequacy. Okay? Is this solution worth implementing? Very applicable to class pag say for example, ang isang organization, okay, say for example, wala silang ginagamit na computerized or automated system. Kumbaga manual sila. Okay? Ngayon, nag-suggest yung isang technical department na why not gawin natin computerized or i-automate natin. So, kung ikaw yung nagpo-propose na mag-automate, you have to ask yourself or the team na nagpo-propose ng solution na yun na, is this solution worth implementing? So, dapat kaya mong sagutin siya. If it is yes, then go. Okay? It's a good na, it's a solution, worth it siya. Okay? Kasi take note, sometimes kasi pag from manual, i-automate mo, maraming negative na feedback. Say, for example, pangit yan, mas maganda nung ganito, bakit kailangan pang gawing computerized, yung mga ganon. Okay? So, yan. So, will it sufficiently address the problem? So, ikaw din, bilang proponent ng isang solution, you should be able to answer these questions. No? So, you have to confirm the adequacy of your proposed solution doon sa situation or sa isang problem. Okay? And number 4 is assess effectiveness. Will the solution meet the objectives? Baka naman nag-propose ka ng isang system pero mas lalo na mga naging problematic sa part ng organization. So, magkakaroon ka ng problema. Okay? Number 5, assess the efficiency. What is the cost versus benefit ratio of the solution? Baka naman nag-propose ka ng isang solution, okay, doon sa isang problem, pero masyado naman siyang mahal to the point na hindi naman siya ganun ka-beneficial sa part ng organization. Okay? So, dapat mas marami pa rin yung benefits compared doon sa cost. Though hindi naman natin may iwasan yung cost, pero dapat mas marami yung benefits compared doon sa expenses na magiging cost once na in-implement yung solution. Okay? So, yeah. And number 6 is determine the side effects. What are the possible consequences of the solution? So if you are going to propose a solution, recommend a solution, okay, before mo yan i-disseminate sa inyong organization, sa staff, okay, sa department, you should be able to answer these questions. Ano ba yung mga constraints? Appropriate ba to? Okay? Siya ba yung worth ba siya once na in-implement? Effective ba siya? Efficient ba siya? Ano yung mga side effects or consequences once na in-implement yung inyong recommended solution? So you should be able to answer this. Okay? So that's receiving and finalization of instructions. Okay. Next, organization protocol. So pag sinabi natin protocols, ano bang ibig sabihin nito? Okay? Pag sinabi natin protocols, a protocol is an official or standard procedure or set of rules that explains how something should be done. So basically, pag sinabi natin protocol, rules siya. Okay? You have to follow it. Okay? So companies have different protocols in defining, analyzing, solving, and evaluating a problem. So different companies have different protocol. Okay? One good example class ng protocol ay yung ating, especially ngayon, no? May COVID. So, di ba pag ikaw ay uuwi ng probinsya, merong mga protocol na kailangang sundin. Okay? So, kaya ng number 1, kailangan may medical certificate ka, meron kang nagpa-swab test ka. So, these are examples of rules naman in relation to sa health, no? Ngayong pandemic. So, that's an example of protocol. Yan. So, different companies have different protocols, rules, or guidelines, no? Para sila ay makapag-evaluate, makapag-analyze, makapag-solve ng isang problem. So, organizational protocol. Now, below are general protocols that an organization or individual could apply in solving problems. Okay? So, number one is state the problem. Okay? So, basically, you have to determine ano ba yung problem. Kasi class, you cannot recommend a solution nang hindi mo alam kung ano yung problema. So, first is, you have to identify what is the problem. Ano ba yung kailangan natin, ano ba yung mga uh, dapat na bigyan ng solusyon. Okay? Kasi hindi ka pwedeng makapagbigay ka ng solution, but baka naman mali yung problem. So, it will what? It will just add more problems kasi mali naman yung binibigay mong solution doon sa dapat na problema. Okay? Number two, set conditions for a solution. Once the problem is solved, how would everyone be affected by it? What are the top criteria for the best solution? Cite 3 to 5 criteria. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, class, kung ikaw ay magbibigay na or magre-recommend ng isang solution, hindi lang isa. Okay? As much as possible, sabi nga dito, magbigay ka ng 3 to 5 okay, criteria for best solution. Kaya nga best, hindi siya yung right solution. Kasi pag sinabi natin class na best, most probably meron siyang consequence. Okay? Sa management class, palaging kinoconsider yung optimum or best solution. Kasi there is no right or fixed or accurate solution to a problem. Palagi siyang merong consequences. That's why you have to identify that. Okay? Kasi take note, management medyo complicated siya. How much more sa isang system? Okay? So, you have to identify the best solution. Kaya nga best, so ibig sabihin, dapat meron kang top 3 or top 5 criteria para ma-determine mo yung best solution. Okay? So, yan. Number 3, proposed solution. So, what solution could possibly meet the needs for all concerned people? So, ano ngayon yung solution doon sa problem? And then, number 4 is you have to check proposed solution against the conditions criteria. Does each of the proposed solution meet the specified criteria? So, ito ba pwede? Hindi. So, yan. Kailangan mo i-check. No? Huwag ka lang yung basta, okay, ito na yung solution, gawin na natin. Kailangan mong timbangin. Weigh things. Weigh the options. Weigh the criteria. Okay? Para dun sa solution. And number 5, select a solution. So, alin ba yung, which solution meets almost all of the criteria? How will other people react to the solution? What are the actions to be taken to make the solution work? So, kung ikaw yung nagre-recommend ng isang solution, you should be able to what? Okay? Follow these steps para mas maging smooth yung pag-implement mo ng inyong recommended solutions. Okay? So, these are basically a guide questions. Okay? So, kung ikaw naman yung, di ba pag ikaw ay nasa parang ano lang yan, group project. Say for example, laboratory activities. So, tatanungin ka, alin dito, ano ba yung problema nitong network na to or nitong system na to? Okay? So, once na-identify mo yung problem ng isang system, ano yung mga pwedeng solutions? Okay? So, yan. And then, pag na-identify mo, ipopropose mo ngayon yung solutions and then you have to check ano ba yung magiging effect nito. Okay? So, yan. These are basically, okay? These are basically the steps, no, in solving problems, okay? Based on the rules or guidelines ng isang organizations. Okay? So once na na-select yung solution, implement or act. Okay? So how will you inform others about the solution? And number 7 is revisit. How is the implementation of the solution doing? Ibig sabihin, magbibigay ka ngayon ng feedback. Okay? So, effective ba siya? May problem ba dun sa system? Kasi ito yung nangyari. Yan. Okay? So, what adjustment were done to make it work? Ano yung mga ginawa? Kasi sometimes, especially if it is a system, hindi naman automatic magiging okay siya. Okay? Palaging merong problems, especially kaya nga importante na dapat may dry run, okay, before the full implementation ng isang system. So, kailangan mo ng revisit or feedback doon sa implementation ng inyong solution doon sa problem. Okay? So, these are the 7 questions in solving problems that an individual or an organization could apply. Okay? Yan. Okay. So after ng pag-recommend ng solution, we are now going to what? Implement the solution. So during the implementation ng solution, okay? So during the implementation of the solution, um, the problem solver should be reactive and proactive. Okay? Kasi ikaw, say for example, ikaw yung nag-propose ng isang system, definitely, ikaw magpo-present. Okay? So dapat daw, yung nag-provide ng solution dun sa problem, dapat ikaw ay reactive and proactive. They should be proactive in a way that they make sure the problem is solved. So not only that, they must also be reactive by being able to adapt and adjust if there are problems during implementation, like delays and other obstacles. So dapat, ikaw din, pag may mga, kung ikaw yung nagpo-provide, dapat open ka for suggestion or kailangan mo din mag-adjust based doon sa situation once na na-implement mo yung isang solution or isang system dun sa isang problem. Okay? So, dapat ikaw ay proactive and reactive. Okay. Another one is setting of objectives. Now, in implementing solutions, it is essential to determine clear objectives to monitor its progress. So last week, diniscuss ko paano ba mag-set ng objectives. So we have steps, no? Pag sinabi natin setting objectives, you should be able to identify ano yung purpose on why are you conducting this activity, this event, or this project. So you should be able to identify, okay? Determine ano ba yung mga um, objectives or purpose, okay, nitong project na to. So why do we have to determine the purpose or the objectives? Para mas madali nating ma-monitor yung kanyang progress. Kaya nga sabi dito, it is essential to determine clear objectives to monitor its progress. Okay? So we have here guidelines. So below are objectives and guidelines during the implementation of a solution. So number one, implement solution at an appropriate time and sequence. Kaya baga meron tayong sa project management, last week, diniscuss ko yun, dapat mag-develop ka ng timeline or time frame. So you can either use a Gantt chart or a milestone or Darachi, okay? Darachi tool, okay? So you have to implement solution at an appropriate time and sequence. So paano to gagawin? You have to identify the activities or the task based doon sa end and start date ng kanyang activity or task. Okay? And then number two, provide means of feedback to assess how well the solution is addressing the problem. So dapat, you can conduct survey, you can ask your employees or your staff, anong nangyayari dito habang ini-implement natin to. Okay? Importante siya para malaman natin kung nagagawa ba, okay, tama ba yung solution or mali ba yung solution. So importante yung feedback. Importante yung comments, importante yung suggestions, no? Para makita natin kung na-address ba yung ng recommended solution yung problem. Number three, gain acceptance from those who are affected by the problem. Okay? Gain acceptance. Ibig sabihin, okay ba dun sa mga users yung proposed solution or proposed system, kung yan man ay system? Kasi dapat, once you proposed a solution sa isang problem, dapat acceptable yan ng lahat ng, sabi nga dito, stakeholders. Pag sinabi natin stakeholders, this refers to the user, the programmer, or lahat ng members, or lahat ng, or the organization, or individual itself na affected dun sa decision na yon. Okay? So, dapat accepted yung proposed solution. Okay? Number four, establish a monitoring system for the implemented solution. Okay? Ibig sabihin ito, you have to determine na ito, dapat may tracking system ka. Okay? Dapat, ito bang activity na to ay tapos na or hindi pa? Kasi, through the monitoring system, makikita nyo kung may backlogs ba or may delays ba or ano ba yung status ng project or ng ginagawa yung solution doon sa isang problem. Okay? So, dapat meron kang monitoring system. Number five, evaluate success based on the efficiency and effectivity of the solution. So, you have to check, Okay? Okay ba to? Uh, Once na nag-run na to, okay na ba siya? May problema pa ba? Or kailangan pang ayusin? So you have to assess, no? Yan. So based, dapat daw, yung criteria nyo is efficiency and effectivity. Na-meet ba yung objectives? Uh, Na-answer ba yung problem nitong solution? Okay? So yan, evaluate success based on efficiency and effectivity of the solution. So basically, okay, ito yung guidelines kung paano mag-implement ng solution. Implement the solution, mag-provide ng feedback, check kung acceptable ba yung proposed solution, okay? Establish monitoring system for tracking kung meron bang improvement or wala, or tama ba yung solution, implemented solution, yan, okay? And you are going to assess the success of the proposed solution based on efficiency or effectivity. So that's basically setting of objectives. Okay. Okay. So we also have the statutory and vendor requirements. Okay. So pag sinabi natin vendor, it is sometimes called the supplier, or it can be defined as a person, a company, selling products or services to another person or company in the economic product chain. Okay? So, basta sila yung nagpo-provide ng services or product. Sila yung vendor. So, in this sense, a vendor is referred to as an individual or organization who provides solution to a problem. Okay? So, definitely, kasi sila yung magbibenta nung product or ng services. So, most probably, sila yung may problema dun sa, ay sila yung may solution dun sa problems encountered by a company. Okay? So as listed by the International Charter, the following are basic vendor requirements which should be viewed when implementing solutions to a problem. So meron daw na requirements. Parang ano lang yan, class. Say for example, yung nagbebenta ng mga tawag dito, operating system. Okay? Example yung Office 365. Okay? Yan. Or Windows 10. Yan. Di ba ang nagbibenta niyan si Microsoft? Microsoft is an example of a vendor. Okay? They're the one who supply operating systems or other utilities, software utilities na pwedeng gamitin ng mga users. Okay? So yan. Ngayon, bago pa daw yun ibenta, okay, merong tinatawag na vendor requirements. Okay? Bago pa siya ibenta sa market. Bago pa ibenta yung mga operating system or yung mga software utilities na merong vendor requirements. Okay? Ano yung mga yun? Number 1, value, quality, service, and delivery are considered to add to the value of the solution. Value is not all about the price alone. So dapat, okay, isa sa mga requirements, vendor requirement is dapat yung product or services na binibenta ay with quality, okay, with value, okay? So hindi lang dapat, pag sinabi natin value, hindi siya nagre-refer doon sa price. Okay? Dapat siya ay with quality, okay? Dapat siya ay nagpo-provide, pag sinabi natin value, okay, it provides solution doon sa problem ng isang user or ng isang customer. Okay? Isa yan sa mga requirements. Value. Okay? Number 2, capacity or distribution. Okay? Big companies have usually national scope and high volume requirements. Vendors should be able to address this concern in implementing the solution. They should have the capacity to distribute. Ibig sabihin, kung ikaw yung vendor at ikaw ay magpo-provide ng ganitong system, ng ganitong product or services, you should be able to cater all customers, big, or kumbaga, kung yan ay buong Pilipinas, dapat you should be able to provide them. Parang example lang yan, class, ng vaccine sa COVID, di ba? Isa sa mga tinitingnan na para ma-qualify ka na maging, kumbaga, bibilhan ng Philippines ng vaccine is yung capacity to distribute, capacity to provide the required number of vaccines. Anin mo naman yung isang vendor na ang kaya lang ibigay ay 10. So, hindi siya. Okay? So, isa sa mga vendor requirements is capacity or distribution. The capacity to distribute. Isa ba ganyan sa mga concern, no, sa nitong vaccine sa COVID is the how many or yung capacity ng isang manufacturer na mag-distribute ng vaccine sa buong mundo. That's the concern, capacity or distribution. And number three, electronically capable. Okay? So vendors should have a digital catalog and should be able to receive orders and send invoices online. This reduces the time and resources required in addressing the concerns of the client. So, dapat merong ganito. You can see yung mga features, ano ba yung mga details about a certain product or yung kanilang product or services na binibenta online. Okay? Especially ngayon na limited yung ating face-to-face conduct of business. Okay? So dapat meron silang they are electronically capable. Okay? Number four is stability. Long-term contractual obligations from vendors are required and expected. Okay? So dapat hindi mo lang titingnan yung value ng product, okay? Hindi lang yung capacity ng vendor, hindi lang na siya ay electronically capable, but makapag-provide ba siya ng services, ng product in a long term, kaya nga mayroong contract di ba? So say for example, nakaka-kontrata ka sa isang company for 3 years. Yan. Baka naman pagdating pa lang ng 3 months tapos na siya. So hindi pwede. Okay? So isa sa mga vendor requirement is yung stability. Okay? Number 5, diversity. So vendors should have the ability to support people with diverse characteristics and capabilities in the workplace. Okay? So hindi lang yung eto lang yung expected na tawag dito na user ang kanilang pwedeng mabigyan ng kanilang services or ng kanilang product. Pwede rin dito sa mga people with disability. Okay? Pwede itong gamitin ng kanilang product or ng kanilang services sa say for example sa blind, okay? Yan. Or yung, di ba mayroon tayong mga ergonomics na devices? So, yan. So, parang ganun. Kung in relation naman dun sa vaccine, meron tayong titingnan na itong vaccine ito ay para lang sa COVID patient. Pero, merong mga lumalabas dun sa clinical studies na itong vaccine ito ay pwede sa lahat, no? Sa pati dun sa current and new variant ng COVID. Parang ganun. So, diverse siya. Parang ganun. That's an example. Number 6, workplace environment. So, vendors should have standards and protocols to promote healthy environment. Palagi naman siya nakalagay dyan. Meron siyang mga sa kanilang manual. Okay. Now, these vendors or suppliers, depending on the solution and services they provide, should comply with statutory requirements. Okay, sorry for that. Okay. So, ano tong requirements na to? Now, this refers to permit, approval, or license to carry out business or offer a service required by law. Dapat approve siya, okay, na gamitin itong product na to. Parang kagaya lang sa vaccine. Okay? So, vaccine is a medicine. Iniinom siya. So, sino mag-a-approve sa kanya? The Food and Drugs Agency or the FDA. Dapat, bago siya gamitin, approve muna siya. Okay? Kung sa kung sa mga digital equipment naman, computer, projector, meron tayong for telecos, meron tayong NTC, the National Telecom Communication. Sila naman ang bibigay ng approval para bigyan sila ng permit, okay, para ibenta yung kanilang product, or the DTI, the Department of Trade and Industry. Right? So yan, sila naman ang magbibigay ng permit. So requirement din to. Is statutory requirements. Basically, that refers to the permit or approval or license to conduct business. Okay? So yan. Okay, so we also have the ergonomic and environmental factors. Now, in implementing the recommended solution, there are various factors that should be reviewed: the political, the safety, financial, ethical, environmental, and ergonomic factors. Pag sinabi natin political, applicable ba to? One good example class ng political. Sa Korea, North Korea specifically, okay, they don't allow yung kanilang community or people to use internet. Meron silang news blackout. So that's politics, no? Yan. Depende sa isang region or sa isang country. Politics yon. Another one is Yung factors naman sa safety, that take note pag bumili ka ng mga equipment or gadgets, meron dyan mga safety notes, parang manual for safety, especially for electrical safety, no? So yan. Financial, syempre, yung capability ng company to buy the service or your product. Yan. Ethical, yan. Example ng ethical class is yung mga tawag dito, beauty products natin. Okay? Isa sa mga issue dito ay yung ginawa mo yung makeup mo or yung lipstick, tinest mo siya sa mga animals. That's unethical. So, isa yan sa mga kailangan mo i-consider. Okay? So, dapat you follow the ethical rules. Yan. Pero, since tayo ay nasa field ng information technology, so ang focus lang daw natin dito ay environmental and ergonomic factors. Though safety, given na yon for electrical, no? Yan. So, pag sinabi natin environmental factors, the external and internal environment of an organization is one of the factors that would affect the implementation of a solution. For example, the availability of supplies, the labor market, and even the economy could be affecting the problem. So you are going to consider this, no? In recommending and implementing a solution, yung environmental factors niya. Example, um, nag-propose ka sa mayor ng isang geothermal power. Yan. Kasi meron say for example ng tawag dito, volcano. Yan. So you are proposing for a geothermal power. Yan. Or kung sa Bataan may nuclear power. So one of the things that you're going to consider ay yung environmental factors na. Okay? Makaka-affect ba to sa constituents doon sa lugar? Yan. That's the environmental factors that you need to consider in implementing and recommending a solution sa isang client or sa isang customer. Okay? Another one is ergonomic factors. Ergonomic refers to the arrangement of things in a workplace so that employees will be comfortable and avoid stress or injuries. Examples ng nito ay yung awkward posture, forceful movement, and stressful work. One good example ng ergonomic factors class is there's a law sa DOLE. I don't know kung na-implement na siya dun sa mga sales lady, di ba? Yung mga sales lady natin, required sila ng kanilang mga employer na dapat sila ay naka-heels. But based sa research, okay, it adds what? Strain dun sa mga sales lady. So, I think one of the recommended solution ng DOLE is dapat naka-flat shoes lang sila. Okay? Para naman hindi naman stressful dun sa kanilang work. That's ergonomic. Okay? Another one is yung mga chairs na ginagamit sa office, dapat comfortable yung mga empleyado or yung staff. Okay? So yan, that's ergonomic factors. So isa yan sa mga kailangan may consider in implementing and recommending solution sa isang problem. Okay? So ergonomic and environmental factors. Okay, so we also have identification of timelines. Now, I already mentioned this last week na dapat ang inyong project ay mayroong start and end date. Okay, so dapat mayroong timeline para makita mo yung status at kung meron bang delays or meron bang progress doon sa ginagawa mong project. So after identifying the objectives, reviewing the requirements, the factors that could affect the implementing stage, what follows is setting a schedule for everything. So ito yung example ng timeline. So you have sa first row or sorry, first column, meron ka ditong activities. Okay, so dapat alam mo yung mga activities para magawa mo yung project, okay, or yung task. Yan. And you have the start and then end date. Kailan ba dapat ito umpisahan, kailan siya matatapos. Okay? Kasi dyan mo malalaman kung may progress ba or tapos na ba siya or delay na siya. Okay? And sino yung persons involved. Para pag nagkaroon ng problem dun sa activity na yon, siya yung kakausapin mo. So siya yung reliable, siya yung accountable, okay, for that task or for that activity. So importante yun. Parang ano lang siya, nagpapagawa ng group project sa teacher. Okay? So, you have to identify sino ang gagawa ng to, sino ang responsible sa ganito. Kailan tayo mag-start? Kailan tayo dapat tapos na? Kasi ito yung deadline teacher. So, that's an example of a project, no? Identifying a timeline sa inyong mga activities or sa inyong mga tasks. Okay, so that's it. I think that's the lesson for this week. So basically, um, ano yung mga, paano ba tayo mag-recommend? Paano tayo mag-implement ng solutions? Ano yung mga factors na kailangan i-consider in recommending and implementing a solution?